Hi, everyone. It's Deb from Deb's RV Services, and I have a special guest with me today. This is Scott from Every Inch RV, and he is here today, and we're going to talk about life safety issues, which is really important. We're both RV inspectors, and we see this every day that we do inspections where the life safety equipment is out of date. So I wanted Scott to introduce himself, kind of talk to you about what he does. He's a certified inspector and a technician. So I'm going to let him go ahead, introduce himself, and tell you about his business.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for having me on. So, yeah, I've been a little bit about my background and stuff. I did 22 years in the Air Force and retired from that. And then while I was in the Air Force, I was an aircraft mechanic. So I was constantly working with my hands, dealing with safety issues on airplanes versus RVs. And then after I retired from the Air Force, I went to school, became a social worker, did that for about 10, 12 years, and then I very happily retired back in, let's see, it was August of 2000. My wife and I both retired at the same time, and we sold our sticks and bricks and we became full-time RVers. And so uh, the retired life didn't last very long. And after about the first year, we had a couple of events that happened that that sort of enticed me into getting into this business. And so I decided to go to school to become an inspector. Went down to the NRVTA, which we both went to, and I got my certification as an inspector in November of 2001, or I'm sorry, 2021, and then we after a year of doing inspections and stuff, I wanted to learn more, and I went back to school again in November, and I got my certification as a technician as well.
Very good. So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here is because you told me a story about something that happened to you where you could have died from carbon monoxide poisoning. So I really wanted to have you on here to kind of share that story so that people can understand the importance of having their life safety, everything up to date.
Yeah, and this story is one of the primary reasons that I decided to become an inspector. So it was shortly after we bought our fifth wheel. We were camping up in northern Arizona. We were out boondocking in the national forest, and it was about the third or maybe the fourth night that we were up there. The the batteries in the RV had started wearing down and stuff. Needed to start up the generator and recharge. At that time, I didn't have very much of a solar system on, so we started up the generator and had dinner and we watched some TV, which is a rare thing when we're out boondocking because we try to conserve power. But as we were sitting there watching TV that evening, I was having a lot of difficulties trying to focus on what was on TV. And so it was strange for me. It's about 9:30. My wife Holly, said, let's let the dog out to do her business, and then let's go ahead and crash. And so sure, went to turned off the TV and I went to stand up, and I fell over. I couldn't stand up, um, and it was strange to me. I couldn't figure out what was going on. The dog jumped off the couch and she face planted onto the floor, and basically the same types of problems that I was having. Um, Holly still had her senses about, and we ended up going outside, and my head started clearing, and everything seemed to work out a lot better. I started getting it to where I didn't have that problem anymore, and but I started getting a really bad headache. We ended up going into town, going to the emergency room, and and taking the dog to the vet, just trying to figure out what exactly was going on. And by the time we got back to the rig and everything had cleared out. What we rapidly discovered was that the it was carbon monoxide. The previous owner of the RV had cut a 6-inch diameter hole in two sides of the generator compartment to run a couple of wires through for the single solar panel that was up on the roof. And so that was allowing carbon monoxide to enter into the rig. And literally, I was being poisoned by the carbon monoxide. Um, to make matters even worse, the CO detector, which should have alarmed saying that there was carbon monoxide in the RV, had been disconnected by the previous owner as well. So that um, you know the dealership didn't say anything about it. Didn't when we picked up the rig, they didn't go through and try to explain any of the safety features, things like the CO and LP detector. And so, you know, by not having that information, it literally almost killed me. And so that's why I became an inspector. If I could go out there and help one other person, then all the cost for the training and everything else, it makes it's made it worthwhile. Unfortunately, as I've done quite a number of inspections now, it's a problem that I see all the time. There's detectors that have never been connected. There's some that have been out that are out of date. Um, I see smoke detectors that the battery is still wrapped in cellophane on a 5-year-old rig.
Hmm.
Things like that. So there's a lot of things. Every chance that I get to talk about safety and try to help somebody else out, it's worth all the extra time.
I agree. It's really sad how on all these inspections that we go on and we see that the life safety items are so out of date. I mean, they're not just out of date by a year, they're out of date by 10 years. And maybe that's one of the things that you can go over.
Yeah,
Let's talk about when you're supposed to change life safety items, because maybe there's a lot of people out there. I think there are. I know that people take the alarm out of their smoke detector because it makes noise and it bothers them. So I understand that people do that, but the CO that you can't, the carbon monoxide that you can't smell, and those detectors, they're hardwired into these RVs, and they're supposed to be changed out, and they never even get looked at once they're a new RV. Once they take it off the lot, a lot of times these people aren't even looking at them.
right. So with all of my customers, whether they be one of my inspection customers or if they're or one of my clients that I've been doing tech work for, I always try to spend a little bit of time talking about safety because it is so important. And these rigs, they if they do catch on fire, they go quick. Those devices are in there to protect the occupants. It's not to protect the RV. It's to protect the people inside. And so, um, you know, if you're a full timer, you should be checking those things on at minimum on a monthly basis, just to make sure that everything is working on them. The LP detector, and CO and LP detectors, they've got a push to test on it, just like a smoke alarm does. And so, on a monthly basis, say the first of the month, go through and check those things. A lot of times, on all of the CO and LP detectors, if you look at them, they should have a green light on there, and that's showing that there's power to it and that everything is working the way that it's supposed to. If the green light's not on, it's not doing its job. So that's something that definitely for you to look at. Um, If you're not a full timer, then you still need to check these things. There's a bunch of different safety items that should be checked before you take it out for the season. You know, the first time for the season, and then every time when you take it out of storage, or you get ready to take a trip, take just a couple of minutes to go through and check those things. Does the smoke detector alarm when you do the push to test? Check the LP detector. One of the biggest things that I recommend to every RV owner is to take the time to remove the detectors off the wall or off the ceiling and find out how old they are. These
Hmm.
things expire. You know, in general, um, the LP and CO detectors, or carbon monoxide, those are only good for 5 years.
Hmm.
They're pretty good about having. They'll warn you when they're about to go bad, but if that warning comes when the RV is in storage, you may miss it. So the key things with that is take it out, look at the back of it, and it'll have a date that it was manufactured on. It's only good for 5 years from the date of manufacture. So put a
Hmm.
reminder in your phone. Give it, 4 years and 6 months, and put a reminder in your phone at that 4 years and 6 month time. And just as a reminder, hey, time to start thinking about buying a new one because it's going to go bad. Um, and so that way, it's when it does go out, it's not going to just sit there and chirp at you. When it starts chirping at you, you can replace it rather than just cutting the wires or taking it out. For smoke detectors, there's a um, lot of issues with smoke detectors. Depending on the manufacturer, some of them are good for up to 10 years. The majority of them are only good for 5 years. The newer ones that are coming out are good for 10 years. They've got the way that they're manufactured is a little bit different, and so that's why they've got the 10-year service life. The carbon monoxide detectors, um, they flat up. They wear out after 5 years. They need to be replaced. Um,
Hmm.
for the CO and for CO and smoke detectors, they need to have batteries changed every year.
Hmm.
So whether you do it on a birthday or an anniversary, or pick a date, and once again put that reminder in your phone, and your on your calendar, as hey, it's time to replace the batteries.
Hmm.
Because that way you don't forget, and that way it's taken care of when the need happens. Um, there's something else I was going to say and I don't remember. Oh, um, one of the big things with a lot of the detectors that we find on inspections is that there's a lot of detectors that people put in that are not rated for RV use. And
Right.
there's a difference between a home smoke detector and one for an RV. And the key difference is the home detectors are made for use in a home. You buy it, you put it up on the wall or on the ceiling, and it stays there. In an RV, you're taking that thing and you're bouncing down the road. I don't know if you've ever driven across the roads in Louisiana, the interstates. Um, the smoke detector may come off the ceiling there. But the key thing with the ones that are rated for RV use is that they have a special coating that goes over the circuit boards on there that protect all those components and keep them from vibrating loose. And so yes, the RV rated smoke detector is a little bit more expensive, or an RV rated CO detector. It's a little bit more expensive. However, they'll last a lot longer, the full time, because they've got that special construction put into them. So that's a huge thing that you really need to look out for. If you're if you go out there after this, after you see this broadcast, and you look at your detectors, which I hope you do, then see if it is rated for RV or marine. RV or marine, either one of them, the standards are identical. The actually the marine has got a little bit more for salt protection from salt air to prevent corrosion, but otherwise, they they're tested under the same standards. So either an RV or a marine rated. If it's a home rated, please go out there, get a new one, get it installed. Put a reminder in your phone for when it's going to expire.
Yep, absolutely. The other thing is make sure you have your fire extinguisher next to your door and it's in a charged state. That's another thing. Sometimes I find them in a cupboard.
In a cupboard or missing.
Right,
Yep.
altogether missing.
And so there's a lot of other things that that are safety items that people don't really think about, but they really are when you get down to it. Things like tires. Most of the time on like a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, you don't put that many miles on your RV. So those tires sit in the same place, and while the tread may look great, the problem is they're degrading from the inside out because they're not getting the motion, they're not getting the rubber isn't getting worked, and so you need to look at the DOT or the date codes that are on the tires, and once again, it's one of those 5 years. If it's more than 5 years, just replace it. And it's got great tread. It looks good. The thing is you can't see the inside. You can't see how it's breaking down. Um, and literally the cost of replacing the tires. If you blow a tire, you're going to replace it anyway. But if you blow a tire when you're driving down the interstate, then you're also going to cause a lot of other damage to your RV. And so
Right.
it's actually a huge cost savings, and it's also safer to just replace those tires. When they're starting to get to be that 5 years old, just replace them because in the long run it's going to save you money by doing that. And it's safer for you and everybody else on the road.
Absolutely. One of the other things that we do as inspectors is a propane leak test. And that's another life safety issue. People have propane tanks there. The connections get worn and they get cracked, the rubber. There are leaks in both directions. So, what I find during inspections is not only are there leaks, but there's also there can be leaks right at the valve. So it can be that the shutoff valve on the tank is not shutting off appropriately. So you can never really bleed down the line. And I've had that happen on quite a few
Yeah.
inspections, and I can smell the propane at the tank.
Yep. Yeah. I had a customer just last week that called me out, and I says I don't understand it. We just filled up the propane, and um, the LP detector hasn't gone off, but uh, we left for a week and we came back, and all the propane is gone. Is somebody stealing it? And I had I had gone through and literally I did a the leak test on the system, and I mean the second that you get it down to about 9 inches of water column, it would just drop to the bottom, and there's no way of stopping it. And what it ended up being was it was a bad regulator that was allowing it to backflow through the regulator, and it was also leaking out of the bottom of the regulator all the time. Um,
Mm,
they lived in an area that there was enough of a breeze that they never smelled it because it was always blowing underneath the rig and away from them. So they never got that smell of the propane. But yeah, it was a huge issue for them, and it's one of those things. A little spark could have caused a big issue with them. So that's one of those things.
absolutely.
I recommend getting a leak test done at least once a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tell my clients too. And getting these things done and having these inspections is so much more than just looking for delamination and finding other things wrong, like a scratch on a cupboard or a ding on a door. It's so much more than that, and it's really is when we say life safety, it is life safety.
Yep. One of the other things, life safety things, um, is the brake systems on these. There's especially on the towables with a travel trailer. I can't tell you how many times I've seen at the dealership. I go in and there's a you've got the cable that plugs in for the lights, and then you've got the chains, and then there's another small wire that people don't really understand what it's for. And
Hmm.
all that, what that is for is if for some reason your hitch were to fail, or the coupler were to come unlocked, or the ball were to break, whatever, then what happens is that small cable is supposed to be tied to someplace else on your tow vehicle, and what it does is it pulls a pin out that causes the electric brakes on the trailer to set. And so
Hmm.
rather than you being going down a hill and your trailer passing you, um, then what it would do is it would lock up the brakes and prevent it from either running into yourself or running into oncoming traffic, whatever. It sets the brakes and it stops it on the spot. Um, they do work. I definitely know that they work. Um, I've I had one experience myself that I had the breakaway cable on my fifth wheel, that and I had routed it to where it got caught on something, and I made a corner in it was in New Mexico as we were towing across the state. Stopped to get gas, made the exit off the interstate, and the cable caught and it locked up in that intersection, and we could not get that trailer to move until I finally figured out what was going on, put the pin back in, and you could move it. So it's important to make sure that that cable is routed correctly towards so it can move freely, and it's secured to something other than the hitch. Don't run it through the chains on the travel trailer. It needs to be separate so that it works on its own and doesn't get caught on something else to prevent it from working. Another one of those life safety things.
Thank you for joining today with this video. And I really think that it's really important for people to understand about life safety. And so I'm glad I had you on for that. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, I know you work primarily in Arizona in the Tucson area, and you're a certified technician and you're a certified inspector. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, where could they find you?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. The One of the easiest ways is definitely by phone. I can be reached at 520-269-0637, and I answer that pretty much every day. Sundays is my day off, but I'll answer that pretty much anytime the rest of the week. The other great way is if you go to my website, and that's www.everyinchrv.com. I've got a lot of great information on there, dealing with safety items, dealing with tires, batteries, you name it. Um, uh, it's a great resource for just getting questions answered. So and there's also a contact me form on my website. So if you have particular questions, then you can do it that way, or you can also reach me at my via email at scott@everyinchrv.com. I want to
All
thank you
right.
very much for letting me be on here with you.
Well, I appreciate having you. I think it's so important to, talk about these things. And one more thing, as far as your tech work, do you have anything that you specialize in to tell people?
I do pretty much all of it. The only thing The only things that I don't do are black tank.
Right.
Uh,
They
but
can't
uh,
afford
I,
you.
I, yeah, yep. The I do I work on generators and I also do solar as well. So if you're in need of a solar system and you're going to be in the Arizona area, definitely look me up and I'd be more than happy to help you out with that.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me.